Hello and thanks for joining me. Well, this is going to be kind of a different video today. It's going to be a review of reviews. I've done a lot of reviews on products that were given to me. Some of the reviews I've done, I've just bought the products. But over a period of time, you kind of change your opinion on different things. And we're going to look at some of those products I've reviewed in the past and maybe tell you some of the pros and the cons, some of the things I figured out that are not good or exceptional. So first thing we're going to look at is this Vevor XY table or mill table for a drill press. I think it's a good product. It has some problems. It's not really what the name implies. It's not really suitable for a mill table, but it's excellent for an XY table on a drill press. But there's ways that need to, or things that need to be improved on it. And let's take a look at that. Okay, the first review I did, I made new lead screws and put dials on this Vevor mill table. And the dials came out good. They're resettable to 0. And I put a new lead screw in there that was 10 threads per inch, and this works great. But it was an extreme amount of work. I think it was worth the effort, but I got to thinking about it, and I thought DROs would be the way to go. We'll leave the lead screw and just use the existing Vevor lead screws and put the DRO on there. Easier than the dials too. So I did a second review, and I put DROs on this and left the Vevor lead screws. And they work, but they're 4 millimeters per turn. And it has one drawback. Let me show that to you. It works good, and I encourage anybody to get this mill table to put a DRO on it. However, the table has reasonably good travel this way. It actually exposes to the dovetails there. And I kind of messed up. My DRO sensor limits the travel further. But I got quite a bit of travel here. But if you go the other way, it stops right there, 1 inch shy. And that's a little bit aggravating if you got a 10-inch bar you want to drill multiple holes in. So here's what's happening. Right there, there's some thrust bearings that Vevor put in there. And the thrust bearings hit the table right there. There they are right there, and they hit the table. So it limits the travel. So in an upcoming video, I'm going to put 3/8 threaded rod for lead screws. And remember, this is not really a mill table. Even though it's called a mill table, it doesn't need to be heavy duty threads. You're just positioning things. So I'm going to remake the lead screw nut and put new brackets on the end with these fairly inexpensive thrust bearings. It'll be right there, and there'll be a thrust bearing on each end. And it'll increase the travel, make it smoother. And if you're a woodworker, 3/8, 16 to 16 threads per inch, so one turn will be 1/16 of an inch, which may be convenient for woodworking. Anyway, that's an upcoming video, but my opinion of the table, it's rock solid in castings and accuracy, but the lead screws are junk. And that was my original review, so basically it's unchanged. Okay, the next thing I want to bring up here is these Vevor, they call them self-leveling casters, but you have to level them yourself. The 4 casters are rated at 4,400 pounds. My mill is 1,200 pounds, and they work great. But if you have to move them around very often, it's really difficult to move this thumb screw. In fact, I can almost not move it. I probably can. You know, I'd have to get a screwdriver to turn that thumb screw. But if heavy item that you want to move around your shop only occasionally, they're outstanding, and they're incredibly cheap. I think it's $49, $50, you can't beat it. $50 for a set of any casters that are capable of holding a milling machine is really good value. Some of you may also remember I used these same casters on the hard-inch lathe cabinet I built. These are a lighter weight version, but they're 2,200 pounds, which is totally adequate for a lot of machinery. 4 of them are 2,200 pounds. Those are a little easier to work. I guess the milling machine being so heavy makes them hard to turn. But I think those are about $35. So that's an exceptional value if you ask me. Okay, the next thing I'm going to review here is a Vevor Shear. My opinion about this hasn't changed too much. I made a bracket under it so it wouldn't take up so much space in my shop. I can use it in my arbor press. The only complaint I have about it is hard to cut curves. I haven't priced it lately. I think it's like $150 or less. Probably exceptional value for that. I did a review on it. Right here it's got a thing for cutting rod. And I had to put a hardened bushing in there because it wouldn't cut anything. It cuts small rod really well. Anything over 1/4 inch takes quite a bit of force to cut that. But if you're just wanting to cut sheet metal, it's exceptional. Okay, here I got a speed indicator I put on the lathe. And it takes a while to stabilize. There we go, 400 RPM. It's 110 volts, so it turns off and on with my power switch. I think it was $20. I don't know if it's still $20 or not, but I'll put a link down below. I'll put a link down below for all the products. But that's an exceptional value. Fairly easy to install. Works great. Here's the speed indicator, the pickup for the speed indicator. It did not come with instructions, so I made a steel sleeve that screwed onto the end of my spindle, and I embedded the magnet right there that goes past that pickup to create a signal for the speed indicator. But after I installed it, I found the instructions on the internet on the Amazon webpage. And it said to use non-metallic to mount that magnet in. In other words, I should have made that out of aluminum. And that might be the reason it takes so long for the speed to stabilize. So if you get this speed indicator, mount the magnet on something non-magnetic, like aluminum. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is this VFD I put on my Harding lathe. I've got a power switch over there. And over here, I've got speed control and direction control. So there's one direction, the other direction, speed control. The most amazing thing about this VFD, to me, is that it converts 110 volts to 220 volt, 3-phase. Single phase 120 to 3-phase 220. A lot of industrial equipment is 220, but why use up a 220 circuit when the horsepower doesn't demand it? That's a 3/4 horsepower, runs perfectly good on 110 volts. Here's a new VFD. Believe it or not, I got it for Christmas. I put it on my Christmas list, and my daughter gave it to me, and she said, "Dad, what did I buy you?" I said, "That's a VFD." She said, "Like I said, what did I buy you?" But there's the VFD. I think it's $118. All your terminals are under that screw right there. And you don't have to put remote switches like I did. You can do it all right here. Speed control, run, reverse, everything's right there. But I thought it would be cool to have this hidden and put nice controls on the outside. The controls on the outside might hold up better too. Anyway, highly recommended. And here's a future video. I bought this Vevor cabinet here, and it's going to contain the VFD I got for Christmas. And I'm going to mount that on the back of my milling machine so that I can more easily change speeds. Anyway, that's a future video. Okay, here's something I'm going to bring up here. They never gave me any free product or anything on this one. It's a ToAuto DRO. And I've used it quite a bit. I'm a long ways from being an expert on it, but it's extremely useful. It's got a centering function, it's got whole layouts. You can do some amazing things with it. I can't remember the price. It's made by ToAuto. There's the brand name there, ToAuto. And I got 3 axes, one for my knee, one for the X and Y axis. Very nice. Seems to be a really quality product. Highly recommended. There's probably other good DROs out there. Probably a bunch of them. But I think this represents some really good value. All the scales were really good. I did a video on mounting that. I'll put some links to some of the videos I've done in the description area and to the products. Anyway, I'm tickled to death with that ToAuto DRO. Okay, the next item is TIG welders. I got 2 of them here. They were both given to me by the manufacturer. Yes, Welder, they no longer make this model, but it's AC/DC, has all kinds of functions, very versatile. Really good welder. I've used the heck out of it. But if you don't weld aluminum, this one listed for $700. I think the new model they have is less than that. But this one is fairly expensive. Of course, it'll do aluminum and it's got high frequency start. But if all you ever weld is steel, go for this one. This one's made by Vevor, under $200. Exceptional welder. I use it most of the time just because I don't weld aluminum. It's very simple to operate. Very pleased with it. So it's exceptional value. I'll put some links to the newer models down below. Something else I wanted to mention is Vevor now puts high frequency start on all their TIG welders. And if you don't know what that is, it's like a grill igniter. It makes a little high frequency spark jump so that it starts your high amperage arc. You don't have to touch the metal to get the arc started, and it keeps the tungsten good and clean so you don't end up with a bad weld. Anyway, if you're just welding steel, this is the way to go. Okay, here's something I did a review on from Vevor, however you want to say it. It's a drill sharpener, and it's an excellent drill sharpener. It has a few negatives, but very, very few, and they're easy to overcome. It's got a collet holder that holds a variety of collets from about 1/8 inch. That's the size right there. I don't know why it's bigger on one end, but it goes from about 1/8 inch to 1/2 inch. Works great. You put the collet in there like that. Put the drill in there like that. And they're an ER collet, so they have quite a bit of range. They overlap really nicely. And to position the drill in the collet, it's got some flats right here and here. You stick it in here. And it's got a dial right here. You tighten it all the way down and move it back to the collet size. In this case, it's 13 millimeter, line it up right there. You put that in there, and there's an area here that flat stops on when you rotate it. Then you push the drill all the way in, rotate it to the right, rotate the collet holder to the right, and tighten it. And that makes this cutting edge equal with the flats on each side. Then you take it over here, and you put it in this rotating, turn it back and forth until you hear a quick grinding. And do the other side. That makes an outstanding grind on that. Then you put it in the top here, and it splits the point. You do the same thing. Like that. And it splits the point. Kind of hard to see. I can't get it close enough. I go out of focus. Very nice. The only negative I found, and it comes with a CBN wheel, which if you watch my last video on CBN, it's excellent for high-speed steel. That's the wheel right there. And it's got several adjustments on it. Here's the drill point angle, which I got it set for 118, which is pretty standard. And this, which I've never moved, controls the depth of your split point. I've never had to move it. You might have to move it if you buy one. I don't know. And they've come down in price. They were about $350, now they're about $250. And I'll put a link down at the bottom for every one of these items. But the negative I found on this is that the cutting angle at the very lead edge is not aggressive enough. It works great in a drill press, but if you're trying to drill with a hand drill, it requires a lot of pressure. Probably the way it came, it works best in the drill press because the drill bit doesn't try to walk around in the hole because it's not a really aggressive cut. But what I did is I limited how far this would turn. And in doing so, if it turned further this way, it rolled the top of that where it wasn't as aggressive. Kind of hard to explain. Maybe I can get a close-up of what's going on in here. Okay, here's what it's doing against the wheel when you rotate it. And what I did is I limited the amount of rotation that way. And the way I did that, limited that travel, it used to move about a 1/4 inch further that way, but you can see a little hook I made right there with a roll pin. Just hits that little hook. I made it adjustable, but I've set it one time and never adjusted. It went back, that little pin right there went back about right there, which allowed it to roll the top over on that cutting edge right there. That's probably not a necessary adjustment. It works outstanding the way it came from the factory, but this is a more aggressive cutting bit and it works better for a hand drill. But anyway, I'm giving this a 9 out of 10 because it's an excellent machine, and the price, it's a little high, but the current price of about $250, I believe, is exceptional value. Before I wrap up the drill sharpener review, let me to say one thing. This came with a CBN wheel, which is exceptional for high-speed steel, but it also came with a diamond wheel. The CBN works way better on the high-speed steel, but this diamond wheel works good on carbide. And I've got a carbide spotting drill here that did not come with a split point, which I don't know why they didn't split the point. I thought it was split point when I bought it. But I'm going to try this diamond wheel, see what it does, and split the point. One negative might be that it's a little hard to position a stubby drill in the collet. Not a big ordeal, but it was a little hard to position. Well, let's try it. This is diamond wheel with a spotting drill on a carbide spotting drill. That looks good. Let's split this point. I didn't hear anything. It is really hard to see. Probably not going to see it on that the camera. Can't get it close enough. But it split that point perfect. That's going to work way better now. Pretty cool, huh? Magnetic floor sweep. I got that for Christmas. I just thought it was really cool. Works great. Works amazing. Of course, if you're doing aluminum, it's not going to work very well. But I love that. It works better than I ever expected. You can see the bottom there. It's got all the steel on it. I figured that it would retain magnetism and not release the chips, but this body is aluminum, so that when you pull the magnets up, it's far enough away, it just drops the steel on the floor. I'll put a link to that. I don't even know how much it costs. I got it for Christmas. Anyway, that about wraps it up. Thanks for joining me. Be sure to subscribe and ring that bell.